Hello viewers, I'm your host Pratiksha Mishra with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. India-Sri Lanka relations have always been marked by deep civilizational, historical and strategic ties. President Dissanayke's recent visit to India further strengthens these bonds, with both nations committing to enhanced cooperation in defence, maritime security and economic development. The recognition of shared cultural heritage and collaborative efforts in areas like counter-terrorism and cybersecurity reflects the forward-looking vision of both countries. Take a look.
India and Sri Lanka share a deep civilizational and historical bond that spans thousands of years. As India's close neighbor, Sri Lanka holds a central place in New Delhi's Neighbourhood First policy and its vision of Sagar, that is security and growth for all in the region. The bilateral relationship between the two nations is robust and multifaceted, encompassing a wide range of areas critical to contemporary cooperation. Strategically located just across the Palk Strait, Sri Lanka plays a pivotal role in India's regional strategy. On December 15, newly elected Sri Lankan President Anura Kumar Dissanayke arrived in New Delhi for his first overseas visit since taking office. During his visit, President Dissanayke and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi engaged in comprehensive and fruitful discussions. The Sri Lankan President expressed his deep appreciation for India's unwavering support to the people of Sri Lanka, particularly during and after the unprecedented economic crisis in 2022. He also reassured India that Sri Lanka's territory would not be used against India, emphasizing the strong and collaborative nature of the two countries' relationship.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ සංචාරක නියම ලෙසට මා අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය මෝදුමැතිතුමාට ආරාධනා කරනවා. ඉන්දියාවේ ආරක්ෂාවට කලාපයේ ස්ථාවරයට හානිදායක වන කිසිදු ආකාරයකින් සිය භූමිය යොදා ගැනීමට ශ්‍රී ලංකාව ඉඩ නොදෙන බවට මා ඉන්දියානු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමාට පොරොන්දු වෙනවා.
During his visit to India, Sri Lankan President Dissanayke held productive meetings with President Draupadi Murmu and engaged in meaningful discussions with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, addressing matters of mutual interest. As a result, India and Sri Lanka agreed to swiftly conclude a defence cooperation agreement and collaborate on hydrography. Both nations reaffirmed the significance of the Colombo Security Conclave as a crucial platform for fostering regional peace, security and development. They expressed their commitment to enhancing cooperation in several key areas, including maritime security, counter-terrorism and cyber-security. Moreover, India is making significant strides in strengthening its energy ties with Sri Lanka. The plan includes supplying liquefied natural gas to Sri Lanka's power plants, which will help meet the island nation's growing energy demands.
हमने अपनी आर्थिक साझेदारी में इन्वेस्टमेंट लेड ग्रोथ और कनेक्टिविटी पर बल दिया है और निर्णय लिया है कि फिजिकल, डिजिटल और एनर्जी कनेक्टिविटी हमारी भागीदारी के अहम स्तंभ होंगे। दोनों देशों के बीच इलेक्ट्रिसिटी ग्रिड कनेक्टिविटी और मल्टी प्रोडक्ट पेट्रोलियम पाइपलाइन स्थापित करने पर काम किया जाएगा। सामपुर सोलर पावर प्रोजेक्ट को गति दी जाएगी। साथ ही श्रीलंका के पावर प्लांट्स के लिए एलएनजी सप्लाई की जाएगी।
New Delhi and Colombo underscored the strength of their people-to-people ties, deeply rooted in their shared civilizational heritage, with the recognition of Pali as a classical language in India, as honor that was also celebrated in Sri Lanka. This reflects their mutual commitment to adopting a forward-looking vision for strengthening bilateral relations. India has consistently been a steadfast partner to Sri Lanka, providing crucial support during times of crisis and continually working to deepen ties in areas such as security, economic development, and cultural exchange. As both nations look ahead, they are committed to further strengthening their partnership, focusing on building a secure, stable, and prosperous future for themselves and the broader South Asian region. The evolving relationship between India and Sri Lanka stands as a powerful testament to the strength of shared history, mutual support, and a collective vision for a brighter future.
The Nepal BFSI Summit 2024 held in Kathmandu focused on sustainable financing for climate change mitigation and adaptation. Organized by the Banking, Finance and Insurance Institute of Nepal in collaboration with the India-Nepal Center of the PHDCCI, the summit brought together leaders from the BFSI sector to discuss innovative strategies for addressing climate risk. With insights from policymakers and environmental experts, the summit emphasized the need for regional collaboration and the role of financial institutions in driving sustainable development. The Nepal BFSI Summit 2024 held in Kathmandu brought together leaders from the banking, finance and insurance sectors to explore sustainable financing solutions for climate change mitigation and adaptation. Organized by the Banking, Finance and Insurance Institute of Nepal in collaboration with the India-Nepal Center of the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the summit delved into how financial institutions can contribute to addressing climate risk and promote sustainability. Prominent policymakers, financial experts and environmental advocates gather to discuss the theme Deepening Sustainable Financing for Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation, focusing on innovative strategies to tackle the growing climate challenges. Their conversations centered on ways the BFSI sector can enhance its role in combating climate change and fostering long-term environmental sustainability.
Climate change, as the previous speakers have pointed out, is a reality, particularly for us, the countries in South Asia, which are all developing countries. The negative effects of climate change have been visible in the last few years, whether it is melting of glaciers, the frequent incidents of floods, and the consequent damages to the life and property. It all, in a sense, reflects the adverse effect that we are facing in this region due to the climate change. Even as the countries of the South Asia region, including Nepal and India, join hands with global community to address these challenges, there is, I believe, a greater need for regional collaboration and regional solutions, because ultimately it is a problem that we have to face.
The summit featured a series of panel discussions and technical sessions led by industry leaders, environmental experts and policymakers. These discussions highlighted how financial institutions can drive sustainable development and assist in the transition to a low-carbon economy. The summit also emphasized the collaborative role of the BFSI sector in advancing showering people, planet and cooperation, exploring innovation in green financing and advocating for a paradigm shift in sustainable financing to meet emerging climate challenges.
You need to start seeing what can you do in terms of leveraging private finance for what is an imperative for Nepal, which is sustainable development and development in a green manner for the future. You need to start looking in terms of vehicles that you can do, special purpose vehicles, what can you do in terms of bond flotations, what can you do in terms of reaching out to entities in our region. And let me make a plug for India. As today the 5th largest economy on its way to becoming the 3rd largest economy, and with a country which has Viksit Bharat, developed India by 1947, but also net zero by 2070 as a domestic target, we are going to be a huge, massive economy in terms of both action and in terms of resources for the action. And so therefore, I leave the plug with you. Think about what you can do innovatively, creatively in the area of financing. Thank you very much.
The Nepal BFSI Summit 2024 aims to strengthen the role of the BFSI sector in achieving sustainable growth by addressing key issues such as climate finance, regulatory innovation, and green investment opportunities. The event underscores the importance of the BFSI sector's involvement in supporting a sustainable future for Nepal and the broader South Asian region. Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent. Iranian president called for regional unity to address additional harm in crisis-stricken areas during the opening of the 11th summit on the D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation in Egypt. Referring to Gaza, South Lebanon and Syria, he said that it's a religious, legal and humanitarian duty for West Asian countries to work together to stop the spread of insecurity. Egypt is hosting the summit of the D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation, which also includes Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia, Nigeria, Turkey and Pakistan. The D8 was established in 1997 to improve cooperation between countries stretching from Southeast Asia to Africa. Malaysia's High Court acquitted Rosmah Mansor, the wife of jailed former Prime Minister Najib Razak, of money laundering and tax evasion, citing insufficient grounds to charge her. Najib and Rosmah have been the subject of multiple graft investigations since Najib's surprise election defeat in 2018, when voters' fury over his alleged role in a multi-billion-dollar scandal at State Fund One Malaysia Development Berhad ended his 9 years in power. Both have repeatedly denied wrongdoing. Iraq sent back nearly 2,000 Syrian soldiers to their homeland after they had sought refuge in Iraq during the advance of rebel forces that toppled President Bashar al-Assad earlier this month. According to reports, the Syrian soldiers were returned at their request and entered via a border crossing between Iraq and Syria. The people of Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan have been protesting against what they see as a series of discriminatory policies that have long burdened the region's businesses and residents. The latest wave of unrest has been driven by mounting economic hardships, with local business owners, particularly those running mills and grinding machines, voicing their concerns over government actions that they claim are stifling their livelihoods and deepening economic inequality. Take a look.
The grievances of people living in Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan have been building for years, fueled by what they perceive as policies that consistently favor the elite while leaving ordinary people to struggle. One of the latest issues to spark public outcry is the government's push to force mill and grinding machine owners to register with authorities. Protesters argue that this registration is not a genuine effort to regulate the businesses, but rather a covert scheme to impose hefty taxes disguised as registration and renewal fees. For many small business owners, particularly in rural areas, these added costs are simply too much to bear. They argue that such measures only serve to stifle local industry and create more financial obstacles, worsening the already difficult economic situation.
11 मशीन वालों को उन्होंने एक नोटिस भेजा था कि भाई 9 दिसंबर तक कोई अगर अपने 11 मशीन का रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं कराएगा तो हम 9 दिसंबर के बाद उसको सील करेंगे। जब अवामी एक्शन कमेटी ने इस पर रद्द अमल शुरू किया तो उन्होंने इसको अब तक रोका गया है, लेकिन दरमियान में जब थोड़ी सी खामोशी होती है तो वो फिर उभर आते हैं और इनको नोटिसें देते हैं कि आप रजिस्ट्रेशन कराओ और सालाना 15,000 रुपये आप रिन्यूअल फीस दे दो।
The issues in POGB go far beyond just taxes. The local community has been outspoken about their long-standing grievances with the government's treatment of their region. One of the major sources of frustration is the government's recent hike in commercial electricity tariffs. Protesters claim that this increase in electricity prices is yet another attempt to exploit the local population. Many residents argue that the electricity they rely on is generated within POGB, yet they are forced to pay exorbitant rates compared to other regions. They believe that this price hike unfairly targets vulnerable communities and adds to the financial strain of already struggling families and businesses. Not only is electricity expensive, but it is also frequently unavailable for hours at a time, causing significant inconvenience and disruption to daily life.
बिजली नहीं है यहाँ पर। ये हाइड्रो एनर्जी का कहा जाता है, बल्तिस्तान बेस कैम्प है, लेकिन यहाँ हाइड्रो एनर्जी के हवाले से जो खेल खेला जा रहा है, खिलवाड़, अब तक जो हमारे जो तजुर्बात हुए हैं, जो तलख हालात से हम गुजरे हैं, वो ये हैं कि यहाँ पर इलाके को, आवाम को फैसिलिटेट करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट के पास कोई ऐसा कोई मेकनिज़म नहीं है। ये चंद ठेकेदार और अफसरान के जो है ना ब्यूरोक्रेसी के बंदर बांट के लिए यहाँ पर प्रोजेक्ट लगाए जाते हैं और चंद महीने के बाद वाइंड अप करके जो है ना पैसे खा जाते हैं, जिसकी वजह से यहाँ मैं तो कहूँगा 24 घंटे में घरेलू जो सारिफिन है उनके लिए तकरीबन 1 घंटे भी बिजली मुयस्सर नहीं है। आज मैं खुद हूँ अपना मोबाइल ला के यहाँ किसी दुकानदार के पास लेके आए हैं कि इसको चार्ज करें, इस नौबत पे हैं।
Another issue fueling the protests is the controversial re-implementation of the Land Reforms and Finance Act. Locals in POGB see this act as another tool to benefit powerful elites at their expense. For them, the law is nothing more than a continuation of discriminatory policies that favor the rich and well-connected while leaving the region's most vulnerable residents even more marginalized. Critics of the act argue that it does not account for the needs of smaller communities which have been historically neglected by government policies. They fear that this new legislation will only serve to widen the gap between the wealthy and the poor, further entrenching the socio-economic disparities that have plagued the region for years.
India commemorated the bravery and sacrifices of its soldiers in the 1971 war against Pakistan, a conflict that shaped the subcontinent's history during nationwide ceremonies on December 16. The day is marked as Vijay Divas or Victory Day, celebrating India's decisive military victory which led to the creation of Bangladesh. India paid tribute to the soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice in the 1971 war against Pakistan during nationwide ceremonies on December 16th. To honor their memory, Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh laid a wreath at the National War Memorial in New Delhi. Every year, December 16 is observed as Vijay Divas or Victory Day to commemorate India's decisive military victory in the Third War between the two neighbours, a victory that ultimately led to the creation of Bangladesh as an independent nation.
On this day, we remember those soldiers and their bereaved families who have sacrificed so much for our independence. Let history say so, that together we fought in 71, together we died in 71, and together we have to work for the betterment of our own people.
At the end of British rule in 1947, what was known as East Pakistan eventually broke away in 1971 to become the independent nation of Bangladesh. This transformation came after a war between Bangladeshi nationalists supported by India and Pakistani forces. Bangladesh secured its independence in December 1971 with vital assistance from India following a 9-month-long war against West Pakistan. To honor the sacrifice of Indian soldiers who gave their lives in the 1971 war, the Amar Jawan Jyoti Memorial was erected. However, despite the deep bond forged through bloodshed during the 1971 war, the current government of Bangladesh has largely overlooked India's crucial role in its liberation. While both nations share a historical connection, in recent years there has been a noticeable absence of formal acknowledgement from Bangladesh regarding India's indispensable support during the war. This lack of recognition has raised concerns among Indian observers, particularly as both countries reflect on their shared history and the sacrifices made during the pivotal conflict. As India continues to honor its heroes each year on Vijay Diwas, it is hoped that future generations in both India and Bangladesh will not only remember the sacrifices made, but also recognize the enduring bond forged in the fires of war, a bond that still awaits full acknowledgement from Bangladesh. Vijay Diwas stands as a testament to India's courage and the enduring spirit of sacrifice. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.